Hi everyone, hope that you're all okay. There's one of my daughters has slightly hurt her kneecap. It may be fractured. I'm trying to be stoic about it and not panic and let my reason overcome my fears, but there is a slim chance I might be away, so I'm just going to record about 50 lines to start you on your way. So we begin with Quis procul ille autem. We've just had Romulus followed by Augustus. Interesting to put Augustus there rather than the next person, Numa the lawgiver, who features now. But who is that? Far off. Who is that? But autem, but who is that? Far out, far off, standing out with his sprigs of olive, with his sprays of olive, bearing his sacred items. We think that the sacred items would be perhaps little images of the gods to whom Numa, the lawgiver, the ruler of the second king of Rome, and he was responsible for religious and for laws of religion and of justice. So Nosco, I recognise the hair and the grisly beard of that king of Rome who first made the... So here it's actually making who first made. Now it actually says that king of Rome who made the first city, but this is actually a transferred epithet because it's of course Numa, who will first make the city safe with his laws. Sent from humble and poor land of the Cures into this great power, i.e. the great power of Rome. Make sure you know who Numa the lawgiver was, and some bits and bobs about him. Tullus will next succeed to him. Tullus there, Hyperbaton, not until we get, obviously, various different lines later on. Not until we actually get to this stage do we get Tullus. So Delane, almost as if we're being guided to go and look at them, almost as if Anchises is encouraging us to go and watch him. Sort of 2 lines down there, the order of them. Next to him will succeed Tullus, breaker of the peace of his land, of his country. Interesting to consider the tension between the celebration of martial of sort of battles and power, and also I think Virgil's natural humanity and probably pacifism. Breaker of his country's peace, who will rouse up to war an inactive people, who will rouse to war, who will movebit, who will rouse to war an inactive viros people, and who will move to war an inactive people, and Agmina. Note the enjambement as we again look at this bit, Agmina there, drawing attention to it, the delay as we focus on that, building attention to these people, how far off they've been, how unused to war, and people and armies long unused to military triumphs. The importance of martial success here, I suppose, following on from the Battle of Actium, with make sure you know about the Battle of Actium and how that represents, I suppose you could say, well, obviously Octavian over Mark Antony, but also you could say Pietas, you could say Ratio, you could say Pietas over Furor, the Furor of Mark Antony, etc., etc. You you already know about that. Next to him, right next to him, follows the over-boastful Ancus. Right next to him follows Ancus, Jank Tantior, too boastful. Even now, enjoying too much the winds of popular favour. Again, note the links there to Augustus, slip of the tongue, Augustus's stepfather and his family, and that we don't know anything necessarily about this particular flaw in him. But again, the Romans' fear of, I suppose, doing things for the wrong reasons, which we're going to be followed up with the next person, who is, of course, Brutus. Do you wish to see the Tarquin kings and the animam and the proud spirit? Do you wish to see the Tarquin kings and the proud spirit? Now, we might be expecting the proud spirit to be, Romans would be expecting the proud spirit to be with them, to be with the Tarquin kings, but of course it's actually of Brutus the Avenger, which is perhaps interesting given Brutus's, this is of course the ancestor of the more famous Brutus, or more famous for us perhaps, who was deemed to have been a hero in sort of Roman history. Of course, possibly Augustus would quite like this given what the younger Brutus did to his adoptive father. Do you wish to see, therefore, yes, the proud spirit of Brutus the Avenger and the fasces that he has regained? Make sure you know what the fasces were, the bundle of axes and rods that was a symbol of imperial power, of the power of imperium, which of course was first given, hence in the next line, to Brutus when he became consul. And it was Brutus that set up the situation of consul, i.e. 2 men elected for 1 year, bearing these things. So this man first will receive the power of consular power, and the cruel axes. Axes is a symbol of power, but also the ability to execute, which of course we're going to see now. And here we have natos juxtaposed with the pater. Should, as MacLennan says, should be close to one another, father and son, but in fact this father is going to kill his son. So, where did I just get to? The father will call his sons, stirring up Nova Bella, new wars, but stirring up revolution. He will call them to, she says, punishment, will call them to execution in the name of pulchra, in the name of beautiful liberty. In Felix, unfortunate man, whatever, utrum, whatever, minores, whatever future generations may say about that deed, he is and still must be in Felix, and one can imagine that probably Virgil would see this. There's that tension. I said to my group today, and I think it's a valid point, that the tension simply as a theme, whether that be tension between furor and pietas, or tension between the public and the personal, the individual and the social, the Greek and the Roman, Virgil and Homer, all of those different things, the romantic and the classical, all these different tensions that fill it, the past and the present, all these tensions throughout this film, whatever future people may say about that deed. Love of his. So here we think it's going to be celebration of Brutus's deed, because remember, for so many Romans this would be a great deed. Being willing to sacrifice your own sons for the good of Rome is an act of piety. But I think Virgil probably sees this as a lack of humanity. Remember me telling you, E.M. Forster, that quote that I love from one of my favourite authors, E.M. Forster, that if it came down to betraying my country or my friend, I hope I'd have the guts to betray my country. It's terrific. I love that, and it's true as well. You should betray your country, and I suppose the notion here of the imagined notion of a country should pale in significance to the real love that you have for those people that you care about. Vincet amor. What did we say there? The love of his fatherland will win. So you're thinking this is going to be good, and the immensa cupido, and his immeasurable hunger for fame. I think that that's an interesting thing. So it isn't actually the love of their. You might think it's a good thing, the love of your country, but actually it's cupido laudum. It's this love of praise. Again, perhaps a reflection on the morality of Brutus. Some people may have called it love of his country, but perhaps there was the accusation that actually he was seeking power for himself or personal success or something. There's that tension that the Romans always felt. Quin. Now, over there, so now, Procul, look at the, literally far off, Aspice, look at the Deci and the Drusi. Deci, willing to kill themselves for Rome, sacrifice themselves for Rome. The Drusi, from this noble family, the Drusus. The most famous person was Livia, Augustus's wife, Livia of the Drusi. They were successful fighting against Hannibal. Look at Torquatus, and make sure you know about Torquatus. Behold Torquatus of the cruel axe, and Camillus, bringing these. So look at Torquatus of the cruel axe, of the savage axe, and Camillus, referentem, bringing the standards home. Again, if you remember the lesson that we did last year, where we talked that this story of Camillus, who after the Gauls defeated the Romans and stole or took all of their gold as a bribe to leave the Romans behind. Camillus then went and managed to get it back and was hailed as a hero. Probably for the Romans, they would have thought of that in the context of Varus, if you remember Varus with Hermann the German, and it was Varus that had defeated this, or brought this huge defeat, this huge shame onto Rome, and that probably Augustus would have liked hearing about the notion that people could have potentially potentially done that. So again, we've got various different other people there. Torquatus also. Sorry, I didn't even tell you about Torquatus. Torquatus was also willing to kill his son as punishment for disobeying his orders in battle. I suppose here linking Torquatus to Brutus. Ille autem paribus. Now we're going to get to that bit of Caesar and Pompey. Gosh, this is quite long. So the next bit then was, but those, autem ille, but those whom you see, Cernis, shining in their arms, concordes, their souls now in harmony. I love this bit, concordes animi nunc, and as long as they are restrained, their souls are now in harmony as long as they are restrained in the night. Note the night is quite separate to the light that we've seen so far. Remember also that Pompey and Caesar for most of their lives were very close with one another, so it's the idea that actually it didn't have to happen that they fought against each other. Alas, if they attain, literally if they touch, si lumina vitae attigerent, if they touch the light of life, alas, as soon as they attain the light of life, what great violence between themselves, quantas, how what battles and bloodshed they will cause. Socer, the father-in-law, swooping down from his Alpine. The father-in-law is, of course, Caesar, from his Alpine ramparts, defences, and the fort of Monoicius, the Roman name for Monaco. Descendens there. The contrast, actually, what we might say here is the antithesis, because we've got it in separate clauses. Gener, so antithesis of Socer and Gener. Oh, I quite like that. Can you try and remember that bit? There was actually another point that I was going to say today that was to do with the war down the proud. Oh yeah, talking about warring down, mercy on the vanquished and vengeance on the proud in the context of... I was talking about that actually in the context of the Battle of Actium. But we were also talking about that only because I've just remembered it. The idea that the Romans and the Italians in their conflict, that actually that in the end the peace treaty is probably more in terms of benefit for the Italians, even though they are the defeated group, which maybe does complete the message of warring down the proud and mercy upon the vanquished. Anyway, Gener, her husband, comes to meet him with his adversis, comes to meet him with his forces from the east, because of course Caesar came down from Gaul, Pompey from the east. Do not query. We'll say there, do not, my sons, allow for your hearts. Do not ad suesicite. Do not direct your hearts, my sons, to such violent war. Do not direct your hearts, my sons, my children. Here, my children, I suppose, could be to Caesar and Pompey, or it could just be simply to his descendants, Romans, all Romans from his descendants. Do not, the anaphora of the nay, the panic, the desperation. Do not vertite, do not turn your violent strength upon the heart of your land. Note the alliterated V letter here, reflecting all of those things. Tu que prior, you, who draws you, tu parce, you who draw your descent from the heavens, be the first to show mercy. You be the first. You be the first to show mercy. You who draw your lineage from the heavens. You who ducis, who draws your lineage from Olympus, proike, cast down or throw away your weapons from your hand. Cast the sword from your hand. Child of my blood, sanguis, child of my blood, who's he speaking to? Think about why. There, the unfinished line, possibly because Virgil wanted to get back to it later, possibly because Anchises is overcome with emotion. He, over there, triumphant over Corinth. So this is now a few different people to talk about there. He, over there, triumphant over Corinth. This is Lucius Mummius, who destroyed Corinth. So he over there, triumphant over Corinth, will drive the chariot of the victor to the lofty capital. Famous for the Achaeans that he has slain. Ile, that one over there will uproot Argos, Agamemnon's Mycenae, and so here this is reference to Lucius Aemilius Paulus, who defeated Perseus, the last king of Macedon, who claimed to be descended from Achilles. He will uproot Argos, Agamemnon's Mycenae, and even the heir of Iacchus, descendant of mighty Achilles. Genos omnipotens Achilles ultus. He will avenger of his Trojan ancestors and the polluted shrine of Minerva. Make sure you're comfortable with the polluted shrine of Minerva and what reference is being made there to the Iliad. The Trojan princess Cassandra was raped by Ajax in the temple of Minerva. So that's what's being referred to there. Quis te, who would leave you uncelebrated, great Cato? Quis, who would leave you uncelebrated, great Cato? Cato famous for his very conservative, his traditional, upright behaviour, and his austerity. So a great sort of old-fashioned Roman Republican. Or you, Cossus. Cossus, they're famous for the where was I? So, yeah, or you, Cossus, who won the Spolia Opima, which you won by defeating in single combat the commander of the enemy. Quis, who again would forget you? The Gracchi, who the race of the Gracchi, or the two Scipios, who the Genus Gracchi, the race of the Gracchi, or the Scipios, the two thunderbolts of war. I've read that as destruction of Libya. This is the two Scipios, the destroyer of Carthage, and Fabricius, powerful in his poverty. Or you, Serranus, sowing the seed in the soil. Supposedly they went, when they needed the general Serranus, he was busy working in this humble Roman fashion in the on his field. Quo fessum rapitis, which tired man are you pulling along the Fabi? I like this idea. And which breathless person do you hurry along, Fabi? You are he, the mightiest one. Tu ille, you are that mightiest one, Maximus, Quintus Fabius Maximus. You may remember from Hannibal, he was the delayer, the one who refused to get into direct combat with Hannibal and sort of took the wind from his sails. You who will restore for us the Republic, our state, cunctando gerund, by delaying. Ali, some, and then we have this very famous description of sort of what the Greeks will manage to do versus what the Roman mission is. Some will, and we would say there, some will, with a softer mould, beat out the breathing bronze. Some, more softly, will beat out the spirantia ara, the breathing bronze. Some, more softly, will beat out the breathing bronze, this idea of the Greeks and all their artistry, or so I believe. They will ducent. They will draw living expressions from marble. They will draw life, literally life itself, living figures from marble. They will plead their cases better, and they will better describent. They will better, what do we want to say? They will better predict, trace, that's good. They will better predict, they will better trace the movements, the motions of the heavens. So they will make better cases, they will predict the motions of the heavens, and they will decant and they will trace, so they will better, where was I? Oh yeah, with a radio, with a pointer, and with a pointer they will better trace the motions of the heavens and decant and track the rising of the stars. 2, you, Roman, remember that. So you, Roman, remember to rule the world. Regere imperio, to rule with power the people. Roman, remember, Roman. So you, Romans' gift is their gift of power. You, Roman, remember to rule the world. These will be your arts. These hai tibi erunt artes. To morem, to impose, to combine peace with justice, maybe, imponere, I like that. To combine civilization with peace, peace with justice, whatever you want to say. And then we get to spare the defeated and to war down the proud. A, B, nice synthesis there. Hey, I hope that you're all well, and I look forward to seeing you all next lesson. I hope I can load this up even though it's a very long translation. Bye.